Welcome, everyone, to the Q&A session for our upcoming course, Dream Journeys Beyond the Veil, the 7-week journey to connect with loved ones, heal your relationship with death, and gain clarity for this life through shamanic dreaming. I'm Lisa Bonis, and I'm really looking forward to this Q&A conversation for the Shift Network, where we'll explore the teachings of Robert Moss and address questions about his upcoming 7-week course, Dream Journeys Beyond the Veil, which begins Thursday, November 12th. And a little later, I'll explain how you can participate in the course, even if you can't be there live for the sessions. But first, I want to introduce our guest. Robert Moss is the creator of Active Dreaming, an original synthesis of modern dream work and shamanism. Born in Australia, he survived 3 near-death experiences as a child, which provided him with early access to other realms. He leads popular seminars all over the world, and his latest book, Growing Big Dreams, Manifesting Your Heart's Desires Through 12 Secrets of the Imagination, is a passionate and practical call to step through the gates of dreams and imagination to survive hard times, travel without leaving home, and grow the vision of a more abundant life so rich and strong that it wants to take root in the world. And in just a few minutes, we're going to open up for your questions. But first, I want to welcome Robert, who's going to begin our time together by leading us in an opening journey. Welcome, Robert. Where are you going to take us today?
Well, thank you, Lisa. Very good to be with you, dreaming with you as always. Well, I thought we might begin with a very simple experiential exercise, which is an invitation to go to your personal dream cinema or dream theater. And the idea here is not only that you can travel without leaving home, but you have available in dreaming and in imagination a personal movie theater, which can provide entertainment and guidance, and where, in fact, as you get more conversant with what is possible, you can find yourself becoming the star and the scriptwriter and the director of your own life movies. So I like to do the adventure before the discussion, so if you'll trust me, I'm going to invite you to go on a journey of the imagination. It's a kind of journey you can make any time you're ready to try it. A good time to do this kind of thing is in that drifty, liminal state between sleep and awake. You're not exactly asleep, you're not exactly awake, you're somewhere in between. A magical state of consciousness. So I'm going to ask you to do this. I'm going to ask you for a moment to relax, get your body in a comfortable position, and call up the memory from your life of something like a theater or a cinema or an opera house, if you like, where you've been excited by images, by film, by performance, by music, by drama. And we're going to put on the screen, I see it coming up now, a picture of a big red screen, and there are curtains. This might or may not resemble the kind of space you're going to find yourself in. Actually, this is the Metropolitan Opera in New York, a picture I took when it was still open. But it'll give you the idea. I'm going to ask you to get yourself ready to make a journey in consciousness, a dreamy and adventure in wide-awake dreaming and imagination, which you're going to find yourself with a little bit of drumming. I'm going to do a little bit of live shamanic drumming. We're going to have live shamanic drumming for our journeys in each class in the new course, so you get a taste of that. You might be very familiar with shamanic drumming, or it might be new to you. It is a way of shifting consciousness, or an adjunct to shifting consciousness that has worked for a very long time, and perhaps it'll work for you in a few minutes right now. So here's what I'd like you to do prior to the drumming. I'd like you to picture in your mind as vividly as you can a cinema, a theater, somewhere like that you have known in your life. You might find several impressions, several memories of flowing together in your mind. My mind often goes to a neighborhood art cinema where I haven't been for some time. Picture yourself at the entrance to your cinema, your theater. Maybe there's a marquee, maybe there's a title of one or more productions or performances that might be underway. You can find yourself during the short journey with the drumming, stepping inside the entrance. And there'll be a ticket booth, of course. And there'll be someone there. And that someone at the ticket booth might say, hey, put that down. You might be unaware you had something, but you're carrying something that's holding you back. Just put that down. Don't bring that in here. And then they're going to look at you for the price of admission. Your price of admission is you're going to say to the person at your ticket booth, I'm here for the dream I need right now. Or I'm here for the story I need right now. You're going to find during the short drumming that you make your way effortlessly to something like a viewing room. And there's perhaps a curtain, or perhaps there's a blank screen. And then the curtain goes back, or the blank screen comes alive, and there are images, maybe flashing back and forth like trailers, like those quickie images you see that pop up in that hypnagogic state between sleep and awake. And maybe you begin to get a sense of the main production of the feature film or the performance that's on stage. And it's something for you. I did this morning. I always do my own exercises getting ready for this live session today, and I found myself going to my version of the dream cinema. And I decided to dress for the occasion. I don't often think about this because I dress very casually, but I put on some smart clothes. And the lady at the ticket booth was delighted. She came dancing from behind the ticket booth in a pink ball gown. Wonderful. Escorts me personally into the viewing room, and I sit down, and there are the red curtains, and they pull back, and in the screen, which is all bronze-colored, there's a bronze centaur, a magnificent centaur with a bow and arrow. And things begin to evolve, and I'm given a message, and it sends me back through journeys of memory, and I'm so excited. I don't need to tell you more about my experience because I want you to have your own. But it can be as simple as that. It might be just one image like that. The bronze centaur in the middle of the screen was a hugely interesting and energizing image for me at the start of today. So let's regard this as entertainment. Let's put up that picture of the Met, of the Opera House, with the red screen, the red curtain on the screen. And I'm going to pick up the drum, and with that image on the screen, I'm going to ask you to close or half close your eyes and not necessarily stay with that image, go with your own image. Find yourself going through the door into your personal dream cinema or dream theater, ready to meet your person at the ticket counter, to tell that person, I'm here for the dream I need to see. I'm here for the story I need right now. And just see what unfolds. And let's allow a little bit of live shamanic drumming to fuel and focus the journey. Hey, this can just be great entertainment. That would be enough. It can just give you a whiff of what is possible. Should we do this? Let's go. So here you are in your dream cinema or dream theater. Maybe the production is in full swing. Maybe you're watching the film. You could step through the screen, and become part of the action. As you begin to come back, take a look around the whole environment. There are posters, there are trailers, there are indications of other performances, other things that might speak to you, other dreams that might be part of your life. So as you come back, just bring back the sense of possibility that you have with you, within you, a personal cinema, a personal theater that is open 24/7, where you can find your lost dreams or grow new ones. So let's come gently back now, aware that this is a place to which you can return and spend more time and find more gifts. So coming gently back into focus, and now we're going to do, I think, our Q&A. But if you have anything with you, maybe a title for the trailer, the flash, the feature film, the performance you saw. If you have something to write with, write down a phrase, a title. My title this morning was Centaur on the Screen. A title for what I saw just now is Fancy Girls Dream in Pink. I'm not going to go any further into that right now, but maybe you have a title, maybe you have a phrase for something that you glimpsed or became aware of in your version of the dream cinema. So there's a little taste of what becomes available in dreaming as you become more conscious and more active about what dreaming can be.
That was fun. Thank you, Robert. I've made my own notes here. Perfect. So we have the rest of our time together to dive into questions for Robert as we prepare for his upcoming course. Again, it's called Dream Journeys Beyond the Veil. Begins Thursday, November 12th. And if you want to check out the website and learn more about the 7-week course, you can visit shamanicdreamingcourse.com to see the full description. So let's go ahead and get into some questions. If you have a question for Robert, go ahead and type it in. I'll be happy to read it out loud. And in the meantime, we have a response here. This is from Zarko, who says, while listening to the drum, I traveled to the grave of my grandfather, who died before I was born. In the shape of a white bird sitting on top of a gravestone, he asked me to go to Croatia, locate the place where he was buried, and ask a priest to say a mass. How seriously should I take this message?
I would actually take it very seriously, Zarko, though good luck with the travel arrangements for Croatia, though until recently Croatia was more liberal about the movement of foreign visitors than many other countries. I take that as possibly an authentic transpersonal encounter with Grandpa and something that he needs. And the image of the bird is very, very important to me because birds are such emblems of the soul. And I remember a white sandstone bird within my own family, which came from an island in the South Pacific, which became a sort of vehicle for soul and a means of communication. So I would think that maybe this is a message to be honored when circumstances are right. And if I am of Croatian heritage, which I assume you are, I'm going to be very interested to make the journey in some sense and make the ancestral connection. If I cannot physically get on a plane and go there in the foreseeable future, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can sit down and assume that Grandpa and other ancestral figures are available to me and have a conversation and discuss what we can do for each other, in the wait time before a physical trip like that might be available. And if no physical trip like that is available for me in the proximate future, maybe I can think of another family member who could actually do what I've been asked to do. I would take the message with entire seriousness, and it actually is representative of one of the main reasons why the departed come to us, try to reach us in dreams and in other ways, because they want something done to make things right, to settle things. And sometimes about settling the gravesite, sometimes it's about a blessing or a releasing or a forgiveness. So that is a deep experience, and it is quite wonderful for me, if I am you, that happens so quickly and so authentically, I think, in a few minutes of drumming in the Dream Theater.
Okay, thank you for that one. Here's a question just about dreams specifically from Sean, who says, often when visited in dreams by the deceased, I find that they lead me to a train station, a bus station, or to a river. Instinctively in those dreams, I resist following them across the rivers or onto trains or buses. I don't ever worry about riding in cars with the deceased, though it seems that my father and I are sometimes on an endless road trip across the country. Is this a familiar dream motif for others?
Well, every element is very interesting to me. I mean, my father, who became one of my great guides to transitions of the afterlife after he died more than 30 years ago, would often take me riding in a car. I don't remember us ever using a train or a bus or crossing a river. But the train, the bus, crossing the river are familiar ways, common ways of perceiving forms of movement, forms of transportation between this side and the other side of death. A train and a bus are sort of collective vehicles, aren't they? So there might be some sense of resistance to getting in onto a collective itinerary with stops along the way that I haven't chosen for myself. I'm just projecting very quickly. I don't like buses very much because they tend to make lots of stops that don't interest me. I do like trains. When I think about trains, I hear sort of wordplay. A training, a line, a track. What track are you on? So I rather like trains. I rather like the idea of getting on a train to go to another environment and learn about what is going on the other side of death. And I'm thinking now of many dreams that have been shared with me in which people have perceived the departed getting on a train to go somewhere else, and sometimes have gone with them and sometimes not. A river or a crossing by water is probably the number one form that humans have had of visualizing the crossing to the other side for as far back as we can trace. And in the new course, in fact, I will offer a crossing by water. I don't think it was a river so much as a crossing by ocean to the other side. So the crossing by water. So these are all, from my point of view, invitations to learn about the afterlife. I would trust my feelings, and I wouldn't necessarily rush to get in a vehicle that doesn't feel right. But they all seem to me like very interesting offers of a possibility of learning firsthand about the afterlife. And how do we know about the afterlife anyway? This is one of the themes of the new course. How do we know that there's something beyond death? How do we know what the geography of the afterlife is like? How do we know the lifestyle options, the educational options, the social situation, and all of that? Well, we might know because someone who is on the other side comes and talks to us about it, and that's really good. But the best way to know what the afterlife is like is to go there yourself. And you don't need the extremity of a near-death experience to do that. If someone from the other side wants to play guide, as seems to be going on in your dreams, if those are my dreams, then I'm going to be open to following some of the invitations, not necessarily all of them. I'm going to use some discernment. I'm going to trust my feelings. But, you know, it's a huge motif in the history of consciousness. It's been very big in my own life, but it's big in the life of contemporary dreamers and earlier dreamers. I'm thinking, for example, now of the story of a Renaissance Italian who was in jail over some business problem centuries ago, and he's in jail feeling sorry for himself. And his dead father turns up in his jail cell, says, "Come with me. I want to show you what life is like where I live." And he says, "How can I go with you?" And his father says, "Put on your body of air. You're going to get in a body of air and you're going to come with me." And then the whole vision unfolds. There's a book about this. Basically, his autobiography of traveling with his deceased father who comes and offers to show him what life is like on the other side. So this, in some ways, I mean, we might have to trust our feelings, as I say, and use some discernment about the precise mode of travel and what we're getting into. But this is probably the most promising way we have of understanding firsthand what happens after death, that someone who's living on the other side, whether it's a departed family member or a spiritual guide of a different kind, comes and says, "Come on, I want to show you. Get on the train, get on the plane, get on the bus, cross the water." So I think that it's a great opportunity to have invitations of this kind.
All right, thank you for that one. Here's one from Chloe, who says, "The drums took me to a relaxed space where I was standing at the foot of a staircase that led to a landing which split off into two different directions. I had no idea which to choose until I caught sight of a flaming phoenix bird, and then you called us back. I lost the image. Can I re-enter this?"
Yes, absolutely, Chloe. We can just give a taste. You know, this is supposed to be a Q&A, but of course I can't resist inviting people to jump in the deep end and jump into the flames and go as far and as fast as you possibly can. That was just a couple of minutes, in an intro call. A Q&A. I mean, in the classes themselves, we have much longer drumming segments. And my whole design was to give you a sense of a space, an imaginal space, which means a real place in a real world of imagination, which you can visit again and again and again. So if you want to learn about the Phoenix Fire and all of that, which I would certainly like to know more about, you can absolutely go back into the image and stay with it. You can do it with or without the drumming. If the drumming works for you, well, then you can use drumming. You can get a recording of drumming. I've made recordings of drumming. But it might be enough for you to take the energy and the juice that is with you and just lie down or lie back in a relaxed position and see if you could go on with it and what takes from there. And you might discover, if I am you, I might discover that there seem to be two ways, but maybe in some sense I can take both of them, either consecutively or even in a sense at the same time. Maybe it's not really either or. Maybe I can have it all and have both ways. But certainly I want to know about the Phoenix, because when it comes to the ability to rebirth ourselves, the Phoenix is a great, great, great fiery symbol of possibility. We can rebirth ourselves from the ashes of the old life. I lead Phoenix rebirthing exercises and rituals, and many other people have done so for a long time. So if I am you, I want to know the Phoenix. I might find that out of that comes, beyond a journey, comes a ritual for my life to do with cleansing my path, rebirthing myself at this point in my life out of my ashes. I often say to people, if you want to know about reincarnation, study how to reincarnate yourself in your present span of years, how to rebirth yourself from the life you're in right now. Then you might be ready to understand reincarnation in the other sense. Phoenix, great way to go.
All right. Wow. Thank you. Here's one from Belinda who says, I've had two dreams of close female relations who've been very unhappy, one weeping inconsolably, head on my lap. And from her, I felt intense love, which I returned. Could you suggest how I might find out what grieves them and ways to console them if that's what's being asked of me?
Well, there are two very simple ways to approach this, if it's my experience, and it is moving and it's calling to me to play healer. The first is to go back inside the dream. This is a core technique of active dreaming, my approach to things. And the assumption is you've been somewhere in your dream, you're with her in a certain space, near or far. You can go back inside that space. You can consciously re-enter the dream and talk to her in the space where you met her. The other way is simply to sort of set up a kind of very colloquial, very everyday kind of family altar in a quiet place in your home, which might involve putting out things that remind you of her, souvenirs, mementos, some personal object, maybe something she likes to eat and drink, and imagining that she is right there, and she might be right there. She might actually not have gone very far at all. She might be within very easy reach, or she might come and visit you because she feels the call, and start a conversation, and be prepared to record. I would write down. You could record on a machine, but I prefer to write down. I'd ask some questions. How can I help you? What are you feeling? What is your situation? And take some notes and see what action needs to be taken. I mean, our departed might be sad for all sorts of reasons. It might be sad because they're lost and confused and don't know where to go, in which case it might be our job to call in spiritual guidance for them in a form that they can receive and perceive and respond to get them to the right place. We living have the ability to assist the imaginations of the dead. To paraphrase William Butler Yeats, speaking with poetic clarity, the living can assist the imaginations of the dead. Sometimes our dead, who are living somewhere else, are lost and confused because their senses have not been opened. They don't see the possibilities around them. Maybe there is a drama, some tragedy, some unfinished business, some sadness, a need for forgiveness. I don't know the circumstances, but I would like to know because I feel through you, through your feelings. I feel for her and I'd like to help make things right. So I feel the call as a family healer, the call to be a family healer and get to know directly from her what this is about and what I can do. And as I say, there are two very easy ways, or very straightforward ways, I think, to approach this. One is to go back into that dream, if you can, with or without drumming. Go back to that space and see if you can talk to her in that space and see what her situation is. The other is to invite her, in a sense, into your space, in a quiet, stable corner of your place, where you put out things that remind you of her and things that she would like to eat or drink, and you start the conversation and take it from there. And that will result in an action plan that will be concerted between the two of you. Something you can always do is you can ask for spiritual guidance and blessing for her. You can ask for her own guides to appear to her. That you can always do.
All right. Thank you for addressing that. A lot of people are asking about not being able to remember dreams, which I know is a frequently asked question for you. But here's an extra slant on the question. Maureen says, I don't remember my dreams for the most part, but I think it's because most of my dreams are bad dreams and I don't want to remember them. I'm always nervous when I go to bed because I know I'll probably have bad dreams all night. Do you have any suggestions to stop the nightly bad dreams?
Well, there are two things to be done. Sometimes if the bad dream is just bad energy, you really feel that you don't need to do anything about it. It's sort of formless and it's sort of inchoate. You do something to spit it out. You do something to release that energy. Every culture that has respected dreaming has an apotropaic, which means a turning away suggestion or ritual. It might be as simple as going outside or going to the toilet and spitting out the energy of that bad dream. I mean, in different cultures, you call upon different protectors, Isis in ancient Egypt and so on, to help you get rid of the bad stuff. Well, that's okay up to a certain point. But when the bad dream has content, particularly when it's a nightmare, let me be clear about vocabulary. A nightmare is not just a bad dream. A nightmare in my lexicon is a bad dream that is so bad you ran away from it, you left it unfinished. So a nightmare is not just bad, it's broken, it's unfinished, you ran away from it, you slammed the door, you said no more dreams, thank you very much. Well, the sovereign remedy for the bad dream and nightmare in that sense, the one that has some content, has some specific challenge, has some story, is to learn to confront the challenge on its own ground. That might require you to go back inside the dream and confront what makes you fearful and get the details, get the facts. What is the dream about? Is the dream showing you something of the future you'd rather not look at, that you might get sick or someone else might get sick or you might lose your job, you might lose your partner, you don't want to think about that? Well, if that is a possibility the dream is showing you, get the facts. And if you act upon them, you might manage to head off an unwanted future event, or at least you might be prepared for it and able to contain it. Is the dream showing you, the bad dream showing you some monstrous, fearful thing? Well, what is it? If you can learn to go back into the space, master the courage and imagination to confront the challenge on its own ground, you might find that beyond your fear is your power. I mean, shamanically, if, for example, you're being stalked by one of the power animals, by the lion or the bear or the tiger or the wolf, it's not going to be cute to begin with. You're going to have to brave up in order to earn its friendship. Even the angel is not a Hallmark greetings card to begin with. Every angel is terrifying, said Mr. Rilke. Even the angel of your being might scare the what's-it out of you, as the angel scares Mary in Rumi's poem about the Annunciation. So it might be that it's your own power that you're fleeing from, that you're hiding from and denouncing as a bad dream. You don't have to go on having bad dreams and nightmares once you brave up and confront the challenge on its own ground. Active dreamers who dream a great deal don't have very many bad dreams. Yes, we see dreams that show us challenges and difficulties ahead, and we're able to use them to navigate. I have very rarely have anything that I would call a bad dream, and I really touched something. I haven't had what you would call a nightmare in decades, because I worked actively with my dreams, and if there's something concerning in a dream, I try to get the message clear. I escaped death, probable death, on the road 3 times by working with dreams that gave me specific scenarios for death in road accidents at 3 specific locations, and I avoided death 3 times by paying attention to those dreams. We dream, as I say, of relationship problems, illnesses, and other things. Well, let's get the facts. Let's learn to go back inside the dream. This is why the technique I mentioned earlier, of dream reentry, learning to go back into a dream and confront what is in it. Maybe it's delightful. Maybe you just want to have more entertainment and pleasure, but maybe it's terrifying. Confront the terror on its own ground, and you will come through, and then you won't be having all these bad dreams all the time. Another thing going on with some of the bad dreams and nightmares is this, I think. One way of looking at a certain kind of dream is, it's like a movie. We went to the dream cinema. Some dreams we feel are produced for us by an unseen bunch of dream producers on the other side of the curtain of the world. And they're being made for us to get a message through, to educate us, sometimes to entertain us. And if we're not listening, our dream producers might get more dramatic. They might get more hyper, trying to get us to pay attention. So that's another factor to consider. If we keep on having very dramatic bad dreams, it might be because our desperate dream production crew, trying to get a message through to us and not being heard, are resorting to every trick that they can, including shock and horror, to try to get us to understand and do something with the dream.
Okay, thank you. And for those of you who are just joining us, we're here with Robert Moss, learning about his upcoming course, Dream Journeys Beyond the Veil, which begins Thursday, November 12th. And you can log on to shamanicdreamingcourse.com for all the details and to register. We've got plenty of questions waiting here for us. Let's go to one from Lise, who said, sometime after my brother had passed, I dreamt that I visited him at his new realm, asking how he was doing. We talked, and I became aware of his whereabouts, and after a while, he lost interest in me, and I was dragged back by a force. I didn't want to leave him and fought to stay, but I experienced traveling through certain layers before I reached the awakening. I was asleep when this happened, but it didn't feel like I was dreaming. Was this a real visit?
That sounds real to me. I mean, dreams are real experiences, another order of reality. There are big dreams and little dreams. Our feelings will generally help us decide what kind of dream it is. But I reject no dream. Every dream tells me something more than I already know. And dreaming can often be traveling. We make visits and we receive visitations. And this sounds to me like a dream visit in which I visit my brother, I think you said. And okay, he's only got limited time for me. Well, I would compare that with what it was like in ordinary life. Presumably my brother or my sibling only had limited time for me under many circumstances in ordinary time, it might be the same life. No, he's got a life somewhere else. He's got other people. He's got other things to do. I remember a very sweet New York City fireman of a certain age who lost the one woman in his life. He was a one-woman guy. He's in his 60s. He's lost his wife, and he's desperate to meet her. So I set up a situation for him where he can journey to the other side to meet his departed girl, his wife, his deceased wife. It's a kind of journey we're going to make in the course. And it works immediately. He finds her. She's sitting at a table. She's very busy. She's doing what looks like a lot of paperwork, and he can't get her attention to begin with. He says, it's me, it's Tom, here I am. Why don't you listen to me? Why don't you look? He says, oh, Tom, I'm glad to see you, of course, but I've got a lot of work to do here. I'm helping new arrivals to be processed. And, it's very important work. Don't you love me? Yes, Tom, I love you. But, Tom, you've got a lot more life to live down there, and I've got a lot of life to live up here. Let's part our ways with love. Go on with your life, and things will be fine. Anyway, that gave Tom permission to date another girl, and eventually he married her. But I'm just thinking about that. Okay, so my brother has limited time. Well, he's got a life somewhere else. We need to understand this. Yes, okay, some would think we're going to be absorbed into the pure light and we're going to lose our individuality and the rest of it. And that might be so for some of us. There are many afterlife situations. The geography of the afterlife is vaster than the geography of this planet by far. So we're not all going to the same place. But lots of people go to places of transition that might last in a particular phase longer than a life on Earth. Doing what? Doing all sorts of things in afterlife environments which we can learn about through this kind of travel, this kind of visitation. But we shouldn't expect that people we are connected with in life are going to necessarily have all that much time for us, or even going to want to hang out with us for all that long. The idea of coming back through several levels, well, that's what goes on, isn't it? We come back through several levels. Sometimes it's quick. Sometimes you feel a step from one room, which might be one world, into another, and sometimes there are stages of coming back. But the idea that you're feeling it's not a dream, it's real, that is a way that most people talk about it. I would say it is a dream and it's absolutely real, because dream reality is actually, with an experience like this, no less real than the physical world. It's another order of reality, and active dreamers get to know that and navigate and operate accordingly.
All right. Here's another topic entirely. People are asking about flying dreams. They feel wonderful and sometimes frustrating if they can't seem to either master the process in the dream or that they wake up and can't fly anymore. Is there a way to cultivate flying dreams and the ability to fly well when in the middle of one?
We actually called one section of one of my long courses for the Shift Network Flight School. We set up something which we call the Dreamer School of Soul, and one of the faculties was called Flight School. I'm greatly in favor of remembering you can fly. I mean, the soul has wings, or the soul can fly with or without wings. And we remember this in dreaming, and there we are. It's interesting to notice all the different ways in which people fly in dreaming, whether we're talking about sleep dreams, lucid dreaming, hypnagogic states, shamanic journeys, meditation, or whatever. It's all good. Some people fly like Superman. Some people swim through the air. Swimming through the air is very popular. Lots of people feel they're swimming, doing freestyle or Australian crawl through the air. Some people fly with wings, like bird wings, or like the wings of Hermes, or like the wings of an angel. Some people fly in machines that might start out looking like a rocket ship or a spacecraft or an airplane, but clearly after a while turn out to be something else. So the truth of the matter is that in dreaming, we are released from the illusion that consciousness is confined to the body and the brain. We get out there, we travel around, we travel to other worlds, we travel to other orders of reality. And why not do it by flying? So you can get good at this stuff. I mean, I've dreamed of running a flight school where, there's sort of trainer equipment, for example. People are taught to sort of bicycle through the air, and then they're given just the handlebars, and they can still pedal through the air, and they're learning to fly that way. I've written a bit of a story about it, which I haven't published yet. So I am greatly in favor of flying in dreams. It's something we can do because we are not confined to the laws of Newtonian physics. We can get out there, we can travel around, and then the question becomes, of course, you're having a great time flying, where do you want to go, or what is calling you that you can access more easily in the mode of flight than in other ways? So fly on, soar.
All right, beautiful. Thank you. Now, this is a really kind of unusual question. There's no name attached. Once I saw my daughter walk past me to the front door. This seems to be in real life. It was early morning, and our rule is to never open the door until everyone was up. So I went behind her, and she wasn't there at the door. I had a bad feeling, so I went up to her room, found her sleeping, and decided to wake her up. And she was very grateful that I did. She was dreaming she had gone to the door, opened it, and a strange man tried to hurt her. What kind of experience did we have?
That's extremely interesting, isn't it? I mean, before you told us the denouement, what happened when you went up to her bed, I was going to say, well, you observed her walking around in her dream body. I mean, typically when we're dreaming, we're not just traveling as disembodied thought forms, we're traveling in a subtle body, an energy body, an astral body, if you like. And I would think, well, I saw my daughter, I perceived my daughter traveling in her dream body, in her energy body. But it looks as if there was some risk on that level, just as there would have been on the physical level. I don't want to going out of the door on the physical level, but sometimes, because there are bad neighborhoods and bad characters in astral or reality or in the subtle plane, sometimes I don't want to find my kid or myself interacting with them either. So maybe I succeeded in playing guardian for her on a psychic level, an energetic level. It's very interesting to get confirmation from her that my intervention coincided with a situation she was finding threatening in her dreams. So that's a comment around that. But the thing I would now say is, and she obviously sounds as if she's fairly young, maybe if this is my kid, and I used to do this with my daughters, I have 3 daughters and they're very young, maybe you want to make a plan to dream together. I would say to my younger daughters, or they would say to me when they're quite small, shall we dream together tonight? And sometimes we set no agenda except, shall we just, and sometimes, I'd lie down on bed with them. And let's just agree we're going to dream together tonight and see what happens and see if we can have a mutual interactive dream, a dream experience together. And if I'm mom or dad, and I want to be a protector as well, this would give me a chance to learn more of how I can act as dream protector, psychic protector for my kid. And the results can be fascinating. I remember with one of my daughters when she was very small, she actually asked me, Daddy, will you lie down on my bed tonight and can we dream together? And in the morning, she was very young, I remembered a dream full of, crystal palaces and Hello Kitty and My Little Pony and like a magic toy shop. I'm thinking, this is far too cute. This can't possibly be what was going on. I said, what did you dream about? Oh, Hello Kitty, My Little Pony, crystal palaces, all the rest. So we were together in the same enchanted toy shop. Interesting experiment. I mean, we can dream together. Dreaming is not just a solo activity. Dreaming is actually, whether we set any intention like that or not, a quite social activity. This is something that most of the people who talk about dreams as academics or researchers fail to tell us. It's something understood in every ancient shamanic tradition. Dreaming is social. We meet other people. We meet beings beyond the human realm. We meet other spirits and personalities of this order of reality, and we go to other orders of reality. We get out and about. So since dreaming is social anyway, why not, if you've got a receptive family member, make the interesting and entertaining plan, hey, let's have an outing together, let's have an excursion together. You could set an intention to go somewhere or do something, or you could simply say, well, let's have the experience of just wishing ourselves to have some dream adventures together tonight and compare notes in the morning. That's where I would go with this at this point.
Okay. This one here doesn't have a whole lot of detail, but it's still got some interesting, it's an interesting question. Shelley says, I heard my name called in a dream. What does that mean?
Well, Shelley, I hear my name called all the time. Sometimes in dreams, I especially hear it called in the hypnagogic state. That's the fancy sleep researchers' word for that state between sleep and awake, where so many interesting things happen. What's going on? Well, sometimes I cannot possibly determine what the source of the call of my name is. Sometimes I think someone is thinking about me, and I might get some sense of who that person might be, but often it's impossible to determine what the source of the call is. We're surrounded by what is sometimes called the human noise band. We're often in the hurry of everyday life, insensitive to how it operates, but other people's thoughts and feelings surround us, thoughts of the living, thoughts of the dead, all the concerns and hubbub, of humanity going on all the time in the psycho-spiritual realm that surrounds and envelops the physical realm. And out of that, There are people we know, even if we don't think that we know them. There are people that know us. They may include the departed. They include people at a distance. They include people we've never thought about who might be part of, in some sense, of our psychic or spiritual family, and they might be calling. So I don't tend to get too distracted by hearing my name, but sometimes I will simply stay with it and see if beyond that impression that my name is being called, there is someone, some presence, some intelligence specifically that is calling me. And sometimes that results, for me particularly, the in-between state between sleep and dreaming, in an inner communication. The most important spiritual dialogues of my life have taken place in that liminal space, and they've started with someone calling to me, not necessarily with my name, but in some way that is clearly a distinct call, and then I pay attention. And then sometimes, if I open myself, a flow of further communication comes through. And my practice is I then record it and look at it and evaluate and trust my feelings on whether this is worth doing something more with. So, be prepared to hear your name called more times, and be prepared perhaps sometimes to pause with that and ask yourself, okay, who is calling? Who are you? You can even, if it's inside a dream, you can even perhaps find it relevant to practice the dream reentry technique. Go back, if you can, to the place where you heard your name called and start the conversation, or do it wide awake. Who are you? Hello? Yes? It's Shelley? Yes, it's Robert. Who are you? Why are you contacting? What do you have to say? And write down what comes to you. That might be the beginning of practice. It could become mediumship if you're going to become a channeler. But I think of it as just a practice of becoming more of a communicator who can cope with intelligences and presences beyond the physical range.
All right. Looking at the clock here, we have time for a couple more questions, but before we take those, I'm going to go ahead and give a few details about the course itself. Again, it's called Dream Journeys Beyond the Veil, and this is going to be just a fascinating 7-week journey with Robert under his expert guidance, where you'll go on dream journeys beyond ordinary perception, where connecting with your ancestors and catching glimpses into your future can bring inner peace, healing, and inspiration for navigating your life in this realm. And the 7-week course takes place on Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, beginning Thursday, November 12th. And if you can't join us live, as I mentioned earlier, that's fine, because you won't miss any of the teachings. You will receive audio and video recordings, which you can keep forever. It's not limited to just the 7 weeks. You'll also receive transcripts and all course handouts on your course homepage. And we also offer a no-risk money-back guarantee on our courses, giving you until December 3rd in this case, to make sure that you absolutely love it. And as an added option, all participants are welcome to connect in a private Facebook community group so you can connect with one another. Also, and Robert's also very active in the group as well, so you can communicate with him too. Also, everyone who registers receives the Dream Journeys Beyond the Veil bonus collection. First, you'll receive a video teaching from Robert entitled Cures for Bad Dreams and Nightmares. So that'll be helpful for those of you who asked about that earlier. And then you'll get a video teaching from Robert called 9 Keys to Your Dreams. And next you'll receive a video teaching from Robert entitled Wilder Shores of Dreaming. Plus, you'll get a medley of tools from Robert called the Active Dreaming Toolkit. And when you register by midnight Pacific on Saturday, November 7th, you'll receive this extra gift, a video teaching from Robert entitled Playing Sidewalk Tarot. So, Robert, before we get back into questions, how about telling us what you're most looking forward to sharing in your new course?
Well, I always look forward to the community, the intentional family that we build, because we have an incredible international group of creative spirits, questing spirits who come together. And the mutual love and support and compassion and insight makes the extraordinary easy. So I am looking forward to growing a new family. We'll have people who've been with me and with these courses for some time. We'll have lots of new people who are getting into this for the first time. And as I say, it generates a kind of energy, a kind of passion, a kind of comfort, a kind of safety, which is very important for a course like this, that does make the extraordinary much easier. We're introducing a number of new facets in this course. We're having the live shamanic drumming now, which will be longer than the sample you got in this class, which enables me to feel absolutely present with you, and the energy and the rhythms of the drumming and the resonance it sets up really does have an astonishing effect very, very quickly. We're also making room in each class for more of a dream clinic. In other words, you'll have more time to ask questions and share reports face-to-face with me. The theme of the course itself could not be more urgent or more timely. Hey, death is all around us. We know it. Many of us have lost people, and lost people in circumstances where we could not be present to them, and we saw them, shuffled out of this world too soon without the kind of support and love and blessing that they needed. So this is a time to think about death, not in a morbid or funereal way, but to really get robust in how we think about death and the deceased and heal our relations with death and the departed, to recognize that healing and forgiveness and mutual support are always possible between us and those who are living on the other side. It's time to get in touch with the wise ancestors of the past and of the future. To sweep clean the histories of dysfunction, the histories of multi-generational failure and backbiting and grief, and really connect with the ancestors on the deep and wise level. It's a time for us to really learn firsthand that consciousness is not confined to the body or brain, and therefore will survive death. And as we approach that understanding firsthand, direct experiential understanding, we can maybe emerge with a sense of courage and clarity for life decisions that is not available otherwise. Because when you know that this life is a journey between other life experiences, when you know in the sense we're in the afterlife right now, because we came from another life into this world, we'll go to another life after this world, then maybe you can bring a sense of the divine comedy to everyday situations so you are better equipped to cope with whatever life throws at you. And that, I think, is the most important gift of all in a course like this, to gain the sense of divine comedy that can carry you through the sometimes deep and dark dramas of everyday life, because you know you're connected to a bigger story. You know your soul and spirit have a larger itinerary.
All right. It just sounds fascinating. I can't wait to get started. Here's a question from Marta, who says, when someone who is deceased, how do you know whether when you dream of them, are you just thinking of them, or are they actually reaching out? I know you've touched on this a bit, but maybe we can dive in a little deeper.
Well, you're going to learn to test and verify these experiences. And the first test is your feelings. Your feelings are usually going to tell you accurately what is going on here, whether how trustworthy it is, negative or positive, transpersonal or made up in the trivial sense. Also, if you want to establish whether this is true communication with someone on the other side, you want to check out clues and information might become available to you. I mean, one of the critical ways of knowing that this is contact with someone who is actually there in their own reality or has come visiting to you rather than just a projection of your own grief or your own wishful thinking, is that there's information made available to you in the exchange to which you did not otherwise have access, and that you can now check out and verify. That's one of the ways that I operate. I always expect new information. I always expect stuff that goes beyond what I already know, and I like doing my research. I like checking things out. So that will be one of my keys. So let me give you a story from my life from early on after my father's death. So my father appears to me, he died in Queensland, Australia. I'm living on the east coast of the United States. He appears to me in a state of high agitation. He says to me, you must talk to your mother and tell her to contact Rodriguez immediately. She needs to talk to Rodriguez. There's lots more in the dream, but that's all what we'll do. My mother wasn't very keen about talking about dreams during life, but she's going to listen to a dream about my father. He's recently died. I said, Dad says you should contact Rodriguez. Do you know Rodriguez? Rodriguez? She says, Ron Rodriguez. I said, who is he? Oh, he's in real estate. He found the place we've been living. Well, will you contact him? And she contacted him, and he made the arrangements by which she found the safe and comfortable living environment where she happily spent the last years of her life. So that's testing and verifying, and then a wonderful action flows from it. I'd never heard of this Rodriguez. It was not a likely name in Queensland, Australia back at that time. There was a Rodriguez. And by passing on the information, I didn't just check and verify it. I was able to give my mother a key to living in a happy, peaceful environment the last years of her life. So that's an example of the idea you want to test and verify. Get some information, check it out. I had no doubt it was my father. but he gave me information to which I could not have had access, which actually settled a family problem. So that's an example of the departed interceding as family counselors, everyday angels, as you like, as they can do when they care about the family, when they've got themselves clean and clear. This is something we're going to learn. Sometimes they have guidance and help for us. Sometimes they require guidance and help from us. It can work both ways.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, here's a question from Chelsea. Again, we're reaching the point in our conversation where you've already pretty much touched on, but not specifically answered that. So Chelsea's asking, besides setting an intention, what are some other ways to help to connect with loved ones who've passed on?
Well, I talked about the family altar. I mean, setting up, a little space in your room where you might hope that someone you have in mind might meet you. We're going to try out in the course a number of itineraries for traveling to the other side to meet deceased or departed people who are living on the other side who are relevant to us and having a timely and helpful communication with us. So this is the shaman's journey, and we're going to test different ways of crossing to the other side, what works for you, what works for them, places we can meet them. I do want to talk a little bit more about this liminal threshold state between sleep and awake, because there's so little written about it that is of any use in the vast literature on sleep and dreams, other than my own work. But this is the most propitious, this is the most easy place, easy space in which to have timely and helpful communication with the deceased on a daily or nightly basis. You're not asleep, you're not awake, you're in a liminal threshold place between the worlds. And this is a time when it is very easy to have contact on the inner planes with spiritual guides and teachers and with the departed. So it's not just about dreams in the sense of what goes on during sleep, although I have great respect for the spontaneous gifts of sleep dreams, which we may not have incubated and may not want. They show us things we need to see. But I would say that learning to set your intention or just to be available in that in-between liminal space is part of it. But when you do have a dream or a memory, and you can use a memory too, I mean, you want contact with the departed, you don't have a dream, you're not dreaming of them currently, but you ache to have some kind of closure, you could try this. You could try calling up a scene that was a place of joy or peace for that person, maybe a place that you shared together sometimes. I mean, that bench under that old elm tree in that grassy space. Maybe that cottage in the hills, maybe that beach where you used to walk with the dog, maybe that place where the person is buried or the ashes were scattered. You could use a memory rather than a dream as your portal to focus on that person and try to establish contact by going there in your memory and your imagination with the intention, hey, let's talk. Another thing that often helps a lot, and I have to mention this, is that maybe there is an animal in the picture in the domestic sense. Maybe there's a dog, a cat, a horse, a rabbit that shared that person's life that you also knew perhaps and was loved by that person. And maybe that animal has also gone to the other side. And maybe that animal is going to be the connector and even the psychopump, the guide of soul in some way for both of you. I found it has been incredibly helpful to people seeking, good communication, good contact with the departed, to call on an animal that has shared your lives, an animal that has lived with you, an animal that has shared your life in the fullest sense, and ask it to be go-between and mediator and guide for the contact. That would be worth thinking about as well. I think now as I talk about it, about the corgi, the Welsh corgi dog that my mother loved, I think about the spaniel that my father and I loved, and how those dogs, long after their death, became guides of soul and go-betweens and connectors within the family.
All right. Thank you for that one. And again, you did touch on this, but Nora is asking if you're having a hard time re-entering a dream, is it because the dream doesn't have enough charge? Is this a skill that takes time to develop?
Well, it's always good to go where the energy is. I mean, if the dream doesn't have a charge, some real juice for you, it might be hard to get back inside it. The juice, of course, might be terror. We talked about that earlier on. There's something in the dream that frightens you, and that gives you the juice to go back inside. Sometimes when re-entry seems to be difficult, we just need to allow ourselves to trust vague, slight impressions. It doesn't have to be a full, detailed, vivid narrative journey. We might just get some quick, slight impressions. But in general, I think you answered your own question, Nora. In general, the theme is go where the energy is. Go where there's a charge. Go where there's mystery or drama or terror or beauty or romance. Go to that tropical island where you're with your dream lover. Go to that place where the monster needed to be faced. Go to that place where the door did not open or you didn't dare to open it yet. Go to that place of the bronze centaur. You'd like to know more. You'd like to know more beyond the line that came to you from the movie screen this morning. You'd like to know what goes beyond that line and what happens if you go through the screen beyond the bronze centaur to what is beyond it. There are some dreams that are resistant in the sense that, there doesn't seem to be a lot going on here. It doesn't seem the right time to go there. But always, 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 as you yourself said, follow the energy.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Well, looking at the clock, we are about out of time here. This has been, as usual, just a fascinating conversation. I want to thank our viewers for being with us today and for all of your terrific questions and sharing your dreams. Once again, Dream Journeys Beyond the Veil begins Thursday, November 12th. And again, you can visit shamanicdreamingcourse.com to learn more and to register. So, Robert, before we go, how would you like to send us off today?
Well, let me give you a dreamer's wish. May your big dreams come true and take root in this world.
All right, perfect. Thank you again, Robert. It's always a delight speaking with you. I'm so glad you spent some time with us today. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right, and once again, thank you to everyone who joined us today. On behalf of all of us at the Shift Network, I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or perhaps another one in the future. Have a good day, everybody.